Hello, greetings. I'm Amanda with Grandma's Wealth Wisdom, and thanks for joining us for Managing Money During Crisis, the final day of April and the final day of MMDC. And today we're going to talk about what I've learned from 30 consecutive daily lives starting April 1st through April 30th of 2020. This being the last one that I'm doing at least daily. We will talk about what comes next after this is done. And I promise that we will take what I'm about to share and relate it to managing money during crisis. This is still going to be about that, but coming at it from maybe an unexpected way. I mean, this is day 30. I had to get super creative for this last day and what this could look like. Kind of, not really. I just thought this would be fun. But before we jump into the lessons I've learned and how they might apply to money, I want to talk about the quote of the day. And I found this one today. It says this: "You don't make progress by standing on the sidelines, whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing ideas." And that's by Shirley Chisholm. Now, this quote's really good on its own, but it has a whole new meaning when you know who Shirley is. Shirley was the very first in U.S. history African American woman elected to the United States Congress, period. She was born in 1924, which makes her part of Grandma's generation, and she was a leader within that generation and broke the glass ceiling in so many ways and did so much good work that we can look back on and be proud of. And to know that, and then to know what this quote's saying, right? You don't make progress by standing on the sidelines, whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing ideas. She was definitely the kind of woman who made progress. And I'm sure I didn't know her personally or anything, right? But I'm sure she had lots of ideas, and maybe some of them worked, maybe some of them didn't work, but she tried implementing them to see what happened, right? When she tried that. She definitely didn't just stand on the sidelines and wait for someone else to do something or pass the buck on to someone else or that kind of thing. And there's a lot to be said there about our money, right? That if we might have lots of ideas of what we could do with our money, but we probably have limited money. I haven't met a person yet who has unlimited money, right? So you might not be able to do all of the ideas that you have. But what would it look like to test out an idea, to implement it a little bit, or, see what it would be like to implement it and, kind of see what happens rather than, well, I don't know. I like 70% of me says I could do it, but the other, like, I need to get to 100%, right? Before I would move forward. And that's where some creativity can come into play with, well, maybe I can run a scenario, like an idea. What would this look like if I went this direction rather than actually going that direction? And then compare that with a scenario. What if I went this direction? And you'll never know, like, for sure whether your scenario is true unless you go for it. But that gives you a better idea before you move forward and implement. And actually, that, like, imaginative implementing ideas can be pretty powerful to help you move from the sidelines into the actual implementation of ideas. And that can be kind of cool. I thought Shirley's quote here would be a really good one to kind of leave you with. There's been lots of ideas and questions shared over these 30 days, more that will come in the time we have together today. But kind of the question is, how are you going to make progress from here? How are you going to implement ideas? And some of that might be that you need to run some scenarios before you actually, like, throw money into the game. But nonetheless, that running scenarios might just be a stepping stone to putting your money into whatever you're thinking about. So thank you, Shirley, for that quote, and thank you for your service to our country. Now back to what I've learned from 30 daily lives consecutively and how they can relate to your money. So first of all, before I share that, I want to share something else that I learned that caught me by surprise. So today is my son's second birthday. We celebrated today. We're starting a birthday tradition of pancakes because he was born in the morning. And so we had pancakes at the time he was born. He likes pancakes, especially with bananas. Bananas are his favorite food. And so I think he likes the bananas more than he likes the pancakes. So that's what we did today. But the thing I learned this past month from just being a mama is the countdown, right? When he won't do something and he's fighting back, I just have to go 3, 2, 1, and he'll do it like by the time I get to 1. And that's like almost feels like magical, like a mama, right? But why am I sharing this, right? Well, one, it works. So any parents out there of toddlers, if you haven't tried that yet, try it, see what happens. The worst they can do is keep throwing the temper tantrum or refusing to do whatever you're trying to get them to do. But also it's kind of, I didn't know it would work, but I just tried it, right? And it didn't cost me anything. So there was no reason not to try it, right? He's a very stubborn kid and he wouldn't do what I wanted to do. So I just said 3, 2, what? And then he did it, right? Before I even got to 1. And so now I've been like using that, not all the time, but selectively, and he's been listening. And so that just, I'm sharing this because it's kind of the idea, like try things, see what works. And you never know what's really going to work. Possibly until you try it, right? There's other things like with your money. If you're going to put a lot of money into something, you'd want to make sure you've done a lot of research and looked into it. But other things that you might be like, well, how could I try it in an easy way that's not going to damage my relationships, my reputation, my wallet, that kind of thing, and then try it. See if good things happen, like your toddler actually listens to you and does what you want him to do. So as I'm sharing, I'm kind of keeping that in mind, that this whole 30 days has been an experiment. It's actually something that I wanted to do a long time ago, like years ago. I think I started trying it at one point. I thought, what if I just did a whole month where I go live every single day at the same time, and provide value, share thoughts and feelings, and see how it goes. And I don't even think I got through like a week when I tried it before, but this was my opportunity. And I thought, let's do it. And it turns out I learned some things about myself, about you, the people I'm talking to, and I also know there's a lot more that I can learn. And so part of, as I share today, I want to hear back from you in the comments what you want to see going forward, because we are going to keep doing lives, but on a weekly basis. We actually decided to start doing them weekly on Fridays, because on Friday mornings, we have every other Friday, a podcast comes out. And at least for the month of May and into June, I think we've got 2 or 3 YouTube videos that have been produced before that are going to be released. And so I can go on later that day, talk more about what's shared in those videos, or add on to them, or maybe like do something totally different that was like unique to that week, right? Because the videos that are releasing were filmed way back in February. The podcasts we film 2 to 4 weeks in advance. So sometimes more. And so I might have something more timely to share, or an update from what we published that day, or something like that. So be on the lookout for Friday afternoons, us to go live going forward. And now, like, how we got here. So I'm really glad that we chose the same time every day. The way that worked is that I looked at In March, before we started, I looked at my April calendar every single day and I looked for what is the one time that I could do every single day. And I'm not going to have to move it up or move it back. I don't have any meetings. I can do this. And 8 o'clock p.m. was the one time I could do. And I'm really glad that we chose that because I really believe in consistency, and consistency is really important. With your money, also, consistency is really important. I've been saving the same exact amount of money for every month for like almost 7 years now. It'll be 7 years this year. That's consistency, right? Consistency is really good. It builds trust with the people that you're working with, but it also builds your trust in yourself. If I'm not scared that next month I'm not going to save if I've been saving every single month for almost 7 years, right? So consistency with your money, I think, is really important, and ties into, of course, what we're talking about here with these lives. Now, the thing that I know going forward is that just because 8 p.m. worked for me in April does not mean I want to do 8 p.m. going forward. I'm a morning person. By this time at night, my brain is done. I've been doing all kinds of thinking. My alarm goes off at 5:30. I'm making sure I'm feeding my mind, taking in material, doing some writing, that kind of stuff first thing in the morning. I've got meetings and things I'm talking about all day. By this time at night, I'm lucky that you can actually like understand what I'm saying. At least that's how I feel. And so we decided this was the time for 30 days we could do, but going forward, it's not the time I want to do. And I'm making an adjustment. We're looking at Friday afternoons, partly because I think I'll have some more energy to do it in the afternoon rather than the evening. Plus, I'll have had a whole week of experiences and inspiration to talk about, right? So how do we apply that to our money? When we're being consistent, we still have to make sure that we take the time to evaluate every once in a while and make adjustments. So I said I've been saving the same amount every single month for 7 years. I've also at sometimes saved a little more or a lot more or just that amount, right? I make sure I hit that minimum, that consistent one, but I vary what I do above and beyond that. And I think that's really smart to give yourself, okay, here's my minimum, here's what I want to be consistent with, but I'm going to allow myself some flexibility to go up and down above that minimum. Kind of like, what do they call that in politics with states and federal? Like just basically like, here's the bar. The term isn't coming to me right now. The minimum threshold kind of thing. And then I can go above or beyond that. Kind of like they set a federal minimum wage and states can go above that federal minimum wage, but they can't go below it. That's kind of how my savings is. I have that set amount and then I can always go above it, but I can't go below it. At least if I'm going to go below it, it better be a really, really good reason. Like my house is on fire, why I wouldn't go live at 8 p.m. like I committed, right? So that's the top two things that I learned during these 30 days, the consistency, but also having that check-in time to say, okay, how now do I want to adjust and being flexible there. The next thing, so I put a list in my notes app of here's topics, and I had like the first 3 weeks, at least like a 1-sentence topic of here's the things I want to cover. And then as the month went by, I would get inspired here or there, and I'd fill in, oh, I should talk about that these weeks. We actually thought about this final week bringing on guests because it was like, I might run out of things to talk about. But as someone I really look up to and admire, Marie Forleo, as she says, there's always more where that came from. And I think that's totally true. As I've been sharing and thinking like I can get through these 3 weeks, but I don't know what's coming after that, trusting that there was more where that came from. There was more things to talk about and to share with you. And that's totally what happened. Even like during the last week, I found the new things to fill in those final gaps that needed to be filled. We ended up not having to bring on somebody else because I had plenty that I wanted to share. But I'm So we had that kind of general list, and then I'd fill in the details kind of last minute. Like we between like 7:15 and 8 o'clock when I would go live, I'd find the quote of the day, I'd write myself like a little outline, and kind of go from there. Partly, I think that was good because it makes this feel more natural, like I'm sharing my thoughts, not as scripted. Brandon didn't really like that because he couldn't like share what I'm going to talk about today before I would actually talk about it. So I'm interested actually on your feedback about that, since Brandon and I disagree about this kind of last minute fill in of the details. Would you prefer to know more details about what we're going to talk about before we go live? Um, or in the description of the video so that you can choose whether you want to watch or not, or maybe find out more about what the video is about? Or would you rather us, just keep it vague, keep it simple, and you got to actually watch to find out, right? Um, maybe also you think that I'm totally rambly and that these should be more thought out and they should maybe more like our podcast, or we have an outline before we record it. If you think that too, I'd love to hear from you. Um, I've been trying to strike this balance, right, between doing what works for me, like the 8 p.m. every day. I could have totally done 6 a.m. probably, but I knew no one was ever going to watch at 6 a.m. So we chose 8 p.m. for that reason, because it worked for me and it would be more likely to work for other people. Especially because 6 a.m. Eastern is 5 a.m. Central, 4 a.m. Mountain, and 3 a.m. Pacific. I hope no one's watching live videos at those hours. And I hope no one's doing them. Maybe, we'll see. Maybe people are, and bless them. But there is that, I got to do what works for me, and I got to do what works for the people that I'm trying to benefit, right? And that actually talks a lot about our money. Like with these lives, what works for me is a general topic list, filling in the details so that I can more ad lib about it and don't get lost in what the details are going to be. But what works for my audience might be something different, right? It might be they want something more scripted, or they want to know more in the description what we're going to talk about. So I want to hear that from you. And when it comes to your money, you got to find out what works for you, but you don't exist in a vacuum, right? There are other people maybe within that you share finances with. Maybe there are other people that will influence your finances. Maybe if you're an employee, you could get a raise or not get a raise, right? You could get a bonus or not get a bonus. If you have money invested in a particular venture, it could go well or not go well. And you have to kind of find that unique mix of what works best for you and the ability to make sure you're jiving with what works best for other people too, and accounts for what they say goes, especially if they're an authority over you, like a boss or something. Oh, hi, Nassim. Thanks for being here. I'm not sure what you mean by that's perfect. If you can give me more clarity, that would be awesome. I forget what I was talking about at 8:17. My apologies. So yeah, that is the second or third thing. I lost count, whatever thing I want to share. The next one is I'm really super thankful that I'm not doing this by myself. That before I go live, the time. Thank you, Nassim. Great. So before I go live, Brandon is here with me, and I'm not just sitting here in my basement all by myself. I'm glad that he's here throughout to share on the socials and put things into the comments. And I'm like, oh, Brandon, I forgot about this link. Can you put it into the comments? I'm glad when he's here after, right when I get done and I hit like end broadcast and I know for sure that I'm off the air, I always say, how was it to him? And he's always super encouraging back to me. So I'm really thankful that I'm not trying to do this alone. And I also know, like you watching, listening, being part of this, that I might not always know that you're here or that you're watching the replay, but I'm really thankful that you're here too. And it means a lot to me that I'm not just spewing out to thin air, even if one other person sees what I'm talking about, hears what I'm talking about, and it means something to them. That means a lot to me. And again, but I didn't do this, right, to have millions of people see it. I did it because I knew it would be stretching and growing for me. But that doesn't mean I'm not thankful for the other people. What I want to hear from you is whether my voice droning on and on for like a half an hour is way too much, and you want Brandon to come in here, be live with me, and break up the monotony of what I'm saying. I know if you listen to the podcast, you know sometimes he can take things totally out into left field, and I've got to like reel him back in sometimes, but he also adds a lot of fun to the conversation as well. So if you want to vote for Brandon, just write Brandon in the comments, and that'll be a vote for him to come on these lives with me, especially if we're not trying to just keep it to a half hour, but maybe go longer. That might work really well going forward. And so how can that apply to our money? Well, right, like we do have people that want to help us. We have people that want to be there before we make a decision, as we make that decision, after we've made that decision, to empower and encourage us as we move forward. And that's actually what Brandon and I do every day for people. Help them think through the decisions that they're making about their money, and help them then initiate those decisions and work through them, and then continue with those decisions going forward. Actually, one of the things I love most about my job is that it's not really a job, my career, my profession, the fun stuff I get to do every day is that the people we work with, a lot of them become friends because we're talking regularly, not just, once they make a decision, we're done talking. We get to have a conversation every 6 months at minimum, if not more often, if that's helpful for them. And I have a lot of fun with it. And I'm looking forward to, as I get older, as I continue going forward, to become better and better friends with them. Okay, so one vote for Brandon, but only if he's short-winded instead of long-winded. Thanks, Naseem. I appreciate your feedback. Thanks. That I was kind of being funny there, but also like, yeah, we don't need to talk probably for a whole hour, right? So that's my, I think there's 4 or 5 big things that I learned that I just shared. Again, this is the last daily live for now. Daily lives are definitely something I'm glad that I've done, but I'm also glad that I've done and I'm not continuing to do. Maybe we'll bring this up again if we get bored or there's another shelter in place that continues for a long time and the weather's not so great outside, like it's raining or something. We'll see what happens. But for now, we're going to go to those weekly live on Friday afternoons. If you want to make sure that you see those, be sure you hit subscribe on YouTube and then hit the little bell that comes up so you get a notification when we go live. And then if you're watching on Facebook, be sure you like and follow our page so that we end up in your newsfeed. And then we will try to do a good job of making sure you know which Fridays we're going live, which should be every Friday, except not tomorrow, because we just finished this long 30 days. We're not planning to go live tomorrow. But starting next week, May 8th, we will. So watch. And if you are not yet on our email list, that's the best way to make sure that you're up to date on all the things that we're doing. Podcasts, YouTubes, a special masterclass that's coming in June, live video, all those things. So make sure you can get on our email list by going to grandmaswealthwisdom.com, and then you'll find a really cool opt-in there that's called Grandma's Top Tips for an Independent Financial Future. That will give you Grandma's best wise words, and will also make sure that you're in the know and you know what's going to be happening going forward. The other way that you can make sure that you find out, especially because we have this live masterclass coming up, is by answering this question. What's your number one question about financial freedom? You can go to the link there. It's in the description with this video too. bit.ly, and then make sure all caps GWW1Q to answer that question. Let us know what's your number one question about financial freedom. It'll also give you access to the masterclass complimentary as our thanks for answering that question. That's coming in June. That's also part of why we're going to just do, thanks Naseem for doing that question. That's part of why we're going to just do weekly lives, because we're going to be in a lot of R&D developing that masterclass. So the sooner the better to get us your questions so we can make sure that we include it in the development of that masterclass that we're putting together. And then that'll be coming June 1st is when it's slated to launch, and be like live, and you can start going through the curriculum that'll be there. Yeah, thanks so much again for trekking along with us on this journey, and all the different likes and hearts and comments, and just watching and thinking about what I shared. I appreciate that you have been part of this journey with me. And again, if you have any feedback about whether these should be more scripted or less scripted, or that I don't think they could be less scripted, or you have topics you want us to talk about, or you want to see Brandon here with me, whatever kind of feedback you have, we want to make sure these are valuable for you. So please comment and let us know. Whether you're seeing this on Facebook or YouTube or wherever, the comments are open, and we appreciate your feedback and input. Yep, I covered everything in my little pencil scratches down there. So thanks again. Happy April. I hope that you stay well. I hope that the crisis ends soon, that the pandemic goes away and doesn't rear its ugly head again. That is my hope. That is my prayer. And I also hope for you individually that you'll experience some kind of breakthrough toward a smart, stable financial future that your grandma would be really proud of. Let me know how I can help you on that journey, and I'll look forward to talking with you again soon. Take care. Have a good night. Peace.